It's that time of year for EQAO, and that's that time of year for me to do a rant. The Windsor Star showed that 60% of local public and elementary schools and 57% of high schools have seen an increase in unsuccessful test scores in Windsor, and that was for the scores last year. Global News said half of all grade 6 students in Ontario did not meet the provincial math standard, and those are for the tests also for last year. And the National Post showed similar results and said the same thing, but they also point out how the decline has occurred similar to the time that we introduced this new math curriculum, but that's a different rant. So, if there are so many issues that are happening with this test, how do the teachers and the students feel? Well, let's look at the students. In Canada, approximately 70% of the variation in student learning is not attributable to school factors, but to student, family, and community characteristics. Yet we keep trying to change the way that teachers are teaching and the way that what they should be focusing on when we should probably be looking at the test. When it comes to the grade 10 literacy test, there were some students that were asked before and after the test how they felt about it. Here are their comments. When I see these results from the government or who marks that stuff, I feel like, wow, maybe I'm not an acceptable level. Maybe I should not take these academic courses. That doesn't sound good. And all of them had similar statements where they all felt that they had shame, they felt degraded, humiliated, stressed, a little less smart, and like a loser. Any test that makes you feel like that is not a good one. Guaranteed, everyone agrees. Another student noted that when students write a normal test, they just go on with their day and their lives, and that's because they have a whole bunch of opportunities to prove their learning. But literacy test failure leads to more stress next year because it makes them think that one failure leads to the next one, leads to no graduation, so there's no benefit for them. The students also found nothing beneficial about the test or the course. They thought it was punitive, as something to get over, and not as helpful as their regular courses. Obviously, if we keep making them go through this, and it's the same as their English courses they're taking now, what's the point? There's little evidence to support the proposition that high stakes tests increase student achievement, and there's little evidence to suggest that the achievement gap will ever close as a result of these test based accountabilities. In fact, some research indicates that the gap is widening between low and high achieving students, and that these tests may be an impediment to graduation for ethnic minorities. There's nothing equitable about it, and it's all happening. And other studies show that language ELL learners are also being affected by this. It's not helping anybody. It's not equitable, and it's actually showing that the white English-speaking male typically tends to do the best. Well, here's a quote from a study, and it goes, "We fail to recognize that systems of oppression work through educational institutions that define themselves through exclusion. Youth who are marginalized by the literacy test are not simply illiterate or deficient subjects who need to become literate for the benefit of society as much as their own. Arguably, they are marginalized due to sex, race, ethnicity, class, ability, language, and other characteristics. The test creates further conditions that mark and continue to mark marginalized youth as different from their mainstream peers." Agreed. It's not equitable. It's not inclusive. We keep pushing for that kind of stuff right now, and yet we keep giving them tests that do the exact opposite. What is that telling our students? What is it telling our teachers? Well, here's the thing about the teachers. Studies have shown that they focus less on other subjects and more on those that will be tested. So is that to say that it's more important for us to focus on math and literacy than it is for any other subject? Doesn't sound fair to me. We have curriculum documents standardizing what we should be teaching for all subjects, not one more than the other. And not to mention the fact that the test has a whole bunch of multiple choice questions, and as somebody who's taken university courses about how to make good tests, multiple choice is considerably the worst. And yet we keep putting kids through that ringer, and we keep putting them through those logical syllogisms that come with multiple choice questions, and they don't do well on them. Another factor is high-stake tests have been shown to increase stress and decrease morale among teachers, particularly those in inner-city schools. So again, we're putting more stress on the teachers. They keep trying to focus on the test. They keep trying to prepare for these tests specifically, and it also affecting minorities, which is also bad. How is that at all helpful? And here's another factor that they found, another statement. And it goes, economically disadvantaged grade 7 students in California scored significantly higher on an arithmetic test when the instructions were delivered warmly than when the instructions were delivered perfunctorily. And this was found out in 1976, more than 40 years ago. And yet we still make teachers stand there and not give any help to these students who are looking for it. And that to me is the most disheartening thing that I can possibly think of, is to be a teacher and not be able to help. EQAO doesn't serve any benefit for anybody. It's not fair, it's not inclusive, it's not equitable. We should stop it.